My name's Sasha Pete, and I'm joined by a fantastic individual. This man was a pioneer. He was the first person from Australia to play in LaLiga. He dominated in the English leagues. He represented the green and gold in the Socceroos. None other than the great Andy Bernal. Welcome, Birch.
Thank you. Thanks, Sash, for having me on. And we've kind of come to the point where we both meet, and we're here doing this podcast. And thank you for your support, your kind words, and thank you for the platform to let the rest of Australia and the world know of the wonderful journey that I've had, which has come with beautiful things and some dark days, and I suppose that's life. And but I'm here, and I'm very open about everything. For many years, you kind of feel like you're afraid to talk about things that have happened, some good and some bad. And the things with mental health and addiction and everything these days that we can touch on, I'm very open about it now, and I'm very comfortable with it. And with everything in my book, that's now my life, my business card. I own things that I'm not too proud of, but I can't change them. It is what it is. That's why I'm here. That's why I wrote a book, and I believe, I should be dead. But I'm here, and I feel that if you're going to leave a legacy, then you kind of it needs to be something that's going to matter to the young brigade, something that you can impact other lives, and if that be with young national teams, with academy players, boys, girls, whoever. I want to leave some sort of legacy that my journey has been an education. Use it as an educational tool for yourselves, and fly high.
Brilliant. So tell us, Andy, how did you fall in love with our great game?
Oh, look, I grew up in Canberra, and the son of immigrants from Spain. So naturally, it's in the blood. And, years ago when I was a kid, we'd go on weekends, as they do in Melbourne and Sydney, and I was in Canberra. And, I followed the Spanish team. My uncle played for them. There was the Italian team, Juventus. There was the Croatians, and I would go and follow them. But, I'll be honest with you, my real first choice was I wanted to play rugby league for Australia. I grew up in Canberra. Canberra was white country. It was white man country in the 60s and 70s. And there was the racial abuse, and we can talk about that later, but you got through it. But I was a very good rugby league player, probably a better rugby league player than I would have been a footballer. And from that point on, it kind of came down to at 14, 15, I had to make a decision. One important moment was running into Johnny Warren, and he was watching me play a game for ACT. I think it was under 14s, 15s, and I was tossing up rugby league. I was tossing up football, and Johnny Warren came up, and I didn't know who he was at the time, and he said, "The Socceroos need people like you." And from that point on, I kind of, at that particular moment, I wasn't quite sure, but then I recalled I'd seen him play in the World Cup was Johnny Warren. It's like, when you meet someone, you go, "Oh, Dad, that guy just said," and then it clicks, it's Johnny. And we became lifelong friends after that. And when I came back from England, we ended up living 500 metres apart from each other down near Bronte Beach. And, he was a good man. He loved football, and he did his part, for football in this country. And, again, for me, I look at him, and the 74 Socceroos, and even prior to that, they were pioneers, trailblazers for people like myself. And then I came along, and Eddie Kranjcevic and Frank Farina and all these guys, we then, David Mitchell, John Cosmina, we were pioneers in our own way into Europe as well. And I feel very proud of that. Someone's got to climb Mount Everest first. Someone's got to do things first. And I don't begrudge the Socceroos now, Olyroos. I don't begrudge any fame, success, any the money they make. You know what? I've never been a jealous type. I've never. I really am happy for all of them. I just kind of part of writing the book was, in a way, just remember us. We led the way, and just a hello, Andy, or an acknowledgement or a respect. That way is sufficient. It doesn't need anything else. Just don't erase us from history.
So you were seen. I remember your time, obviously, in the NSL. You were seen at that time as a hard man at the back, and people, your teammates. Growing up, was that sort of racial abuse? Was that made you a tougher man growing up? Was that part of the framework to make you stronger?
I think. Look, my grandfather and father were military men. As you just spoke to me previously, prior to this, about your father. They were in the old armies of Europe. Post-war, pre-war, World War II, and Dad was a military sniper and a specialist in unarmed combat. So, we grew up at home loving wrestling and boxing and all the arts and Cassius Clay, Muhammad Ali. So we loved all that sort of stuff, and Dad encouraged it. He encouraged me to play every sport: rugby league, rugby union, AFL. I wanted to play next to Platten, for the Hawks, Dipper and Brereton, the whole lot, man. That was like my team, and and it built. I think the fact that we played a multitude of sports.
Yes.
Playing rugby league, playing AFL, it hardens you. For football. And then you understand that, you get used to that body contact. You start liking it. You start putting in fair but big hits, if possible. Fair all the time. Dad always used to say, fair but hard. And I loved the physical element of rugby league, of AFL, and I took that into football as much as possible. And I don't think there'll ever be anyone on the planet that would ever say that I produced or I performed a cowardly act, an over the ball tackle where you purposely break someone's shin in half or purposely go to break someone's if you miss every now and then, it was never on purpose, but it was, I was tough. I was in that Roy Keane mold, the Vinnie Jones mold, the Ruggieri mold, and it was what it was. We at Albacete in Spain, my coach was Pachin, who was the enforcer for Real Madrid, when Puskas, Hento and Di Stefano played. And he said to me, you remind me of me. Your job is to eliminate the 10, win the ball, and give it to people that are better footballers than you. And if you do that, you play 400 or 500 games in Europe and for your national team. It's kind of know your job. Know your job and do it well.
You were selected in the AIS squad, obviously being a Canberra boy. That would have been an easy transition, not being too far from home. But talk to me about some of the other boys in the same year that you were in there.
Well, I went in. The year I went in was 83, and there was already some boys that had been there the previous year, like Frank Farina, that became a Socceroo coach. Tony Franken was there. In my unit that went in that year, there was Warren Spink from Melbourne. We've been mates ever since. The other Socceroos were Robbie Hooker, went in. Lou Ristadulu, that went on to play number 6 for Panathinaikos for 10 years, and not many people here know about that, which is kind of sad. So we ended up having, we had a National Youth League team for 2 years that won the National Youth League with, many of the best under 18s players in the country. And whenever we played South Melbourne or Apia or Sydney Olympic or Sydney United, because it was the AIS team, they would bring down 5 or 6 of the first team. So we were cutting our teeth against, you play Sydney City and, they'd have 5, 6 Socceroos that would come down and play against you just because they didn't want to lose to the AIS, the kids. And I think that's where the last maybe 5, 6 years of the AIS or 10 years went wrong. I think the age was too young. We were 17, 18. So when I came out, I was ready to go pro and join a team at a pro level, a first team. Whereas these kids were coming in at 15, 16, and then they're having to go off to their A-League clubs, and they're still 16 and a half, 17. It's almost like they've then got to win over the whole first team squad. And we were playing against men, against senior men, against, NSL was the old A-League, and we were cutting our teeth against a lot of good players. And we had Ron Smith and Jimmy Shoulder were my coaches. And, the information that I received was, I think to play top level football, you've got to have a brain capable of seeing things and understanding things and understanding spaces, awareness, everything, angles. So you need that brain to be able to put the puzzle together. But to put the puzzle together, you've got to understand how to put the moves together. And Ron Smith and Jimmy were fantastic in terms of understanding how you receive the ball, when to receive it. The first touch is either a touch, pass back, or your first touch is so sublime that it gets it ready for the second touch. And it wasn't until I went and joined Sporting Gijón and then watched Beckham and Zidane and all these guys at training that I kind of knew it before, but then looking at it from an older perspective, it's like, wow, the touch of Zidane and all these guys is so sublime that, and it has to be because if you're a striker and you got Sergio Ramos on your ass, that first touch, if it's not right, you know what you're getting, and because he's equally as good a machine as you. So, it's a matter of centimetres and inches, really. But so
talk to me. How is it that you were noticed to play in Spain?
Well, we while at the AIS, they would take us to Europe once a year, which is fantastic. We got out of school for 6 to 8 weeks, and the second year, 84, we went to Germany. And we ended up playing a European youth tournament there, and we played in the final. We lost to Real Madrid, but we played the final against Real Madrid after beating Real Sociedad on the way. That's where I met Julian Lopetegui, the Sevilla and Spanish coach. So we beat Real Sociedad, we beat Bayern Munich and Borussia Dortmund. Their best youth teams to make the final of a European tournament in Germany. So, it's in Germany. So Dortmund and Munich are playing their good sides. And it was really then that I really started feeling that I can compete here. I'm looking at Real Madrid's best under 20s, and, I could have easily been on their side. And I went up to Vicente del Bosque afterwards, who then became Spanish manager and Real Madrid manager, and kind of there was no agents those days, there was no anything, and I introduced myself, and in my Spanish, I said, "Excuse me, sir, could I have a word? My parents are Spanish, and if possible, I just played against you, and I'd love a trial." I was quite humble about it, and he said, "You should have been with us today." And so we exchanged details, and he said, "Whenever you want to come over, this and that," and we kind of left it at that. And I got home, and Dad had a mate at the embassy here in Canberra who knew the president of Sporting Gijón. And at the time, Gijón had five Spanish internationals in the first 11 of Spain, and in their first 11. And, my uncle lived there. So it was, for me, it was the perfect scenario. Real Madrid is Real Madrid, and I was under no illusion that it's a big place to go and trial to. So I just thought Gijon with family there a little bit easier. I didn't really know anyone in Madrid. It's a big city, so I wouldn't say I took the easy option, but I took the more safe option.
Realistic. The realistic.
A contract had been offered. They had an under 2023s team, and that's how it went. I was, as Ron Smith says, up to this day, he says you were the first Aussie to be ever identified by Real Madrid, and and it was at a point where Sasha, I don't harp on about it too much, but I shouldn't have even been there. I had a left knee that was born. I was born with a left knee, a congenital disease that was eradicating the cartilage, the meniscus and cartilage at a faster rate than normal. And doctors told me I wouldn't ever walk without pain. I had to wear a Forrest Gump brace for 3-4 years, and the torture that comes with that, and then I wouldn't wear it to school. So by 17, 18, I had no meniscus, and my hyaline cartilage on the bone of the left leg was, I was kind of almost on one leg by, if I'm honest, and medical records, 7 operations will tell you, and hundreds of holes drilled into my knee, that I played a career on one leg. By 2021, it's like getting a drive in Formula One. You're karting all your life. You get a Formula One drive, and the team boss says, okay, we got you in the McLaren, but for the next 10 years, your car has no brake pads and suspension on the left-hand side. And you still manage to go and play on big stages for the next 10, 12 years. So for that, because of that, and then, I missed 50, 60 caps for the Socceroos. I got injured once before England. Mehmet came in, Durakovic, a wonderful player, a wonderful guy, came in and got 60 caps or something, and couldn't have gone to a better guy. But you miss a lot of caps, but here am I. You know what? It's almost like I'm being ungrateful. If you play once for your nation, it's a beautiful thing and an honour. Should I have played more? I was a 100-cap player that didn't get 100 caps. But it's life. But I lived my dream.
I do know what that feels like, having no meniscus in the knee. I've done my ACL on my right knee twice and left once, and it takes a good 10, 15 minutes to warm up, and the next day you're just icing it flat stick. So I'm sure, your rehab would have been like stiff, and on those cold days, the knee just doesn't want to bend.
It's just a life of ice, and bone on bone you can't fix.
Yeah.
You can't fix. So it gradually gets worse and worse and worse. So at the end, it's just this bone on bone that is just grating, and then taking thousands of anti-inflammatory tablets, stomach linings, gone to pieces, and but what can you do?
Yeah. You're in Spain. Talk to me. You're traveling, to the Bernabeu, right? Who are some of the people that you had the pleasure of marking, or the displeasure? Who are some of the?
Oh, look, when I went to Gijon, it was, they had 5 or 6 internationals that were playing for Spain. One of them had just come back from Barcelona. His name was Enrique Castro Kini, and 7 times top goal scorer in Spain. 5 of them for Barcelona in the top league, and 2 for Gijon in LaLiga too. The greatest natural finisher I've ever seen. The stadium in Gijon now is named after him. And, he'd gone through a lot. He'd been kidnapped by the Basque terrorist group ETA while he was at Barcelona for money. But he was the first guy, and there's a part in the book where it was my first day at Gijon, and it was a tough day. And of all the people to stop their car and offer me a ride, it was the greatest one of them all. who was the most humble and the superstar, the Spanish goal scoring legend, and he gave me some great advice and told me about his first days at Barcelona, and became lifelong friends. I met Marcelino that day, who was in the under-20s with me. He's now the manager of Athletic Bilbao. And then I went on loan to Albacete finally. I had to go on loan. And Big Zod already played for Australia under-23s. Under-20s. Back in those days, the FIFA laws were a little antiquated. So it meant that because I'd played for Australia under-20s, I was locked in to play for Australia forever. And now you've got to play in the senior team before you get locked in forever. So I played in the under-20s team, and that meant that I wouldn't be able to play for Spain. And they wanted me to be able to play for Spain because then I could play as a Spaniard under FIFA rules. So anyway, ended up I was a foreigner, got loaned to Albacete, Iniesta's club, and my manager was Pachin, seven league titles and 2 European Cups with Real Madrid in behind, the greats, the Stefano, Puskas, Hento. And, he was from out of town. I was a young kid, and I don't know, he liked me for some reason. He saw himself in me years ago. I think maybe, I'm not sure feeling sorry is the word, but he knew I was alone in Spain, and then, and I'd been shipped there on a train, and you get there, you don't know anyone, and it's tough. You go into dressing rooms with men who are hostile in many ways. They don't want you there.
Yeah.
Bread off their table. So, Pachin took me under his arm and he said, I'm going to tell you what you do. You're going to do this, this, and that. You're going to play for me every game. And, I got there kind of mid-season and played every game for him. And he told me stories of the Real Madrid days of playing in European Cup finals over coffee in the morning. I played number 6 for him at 19, playing against Valencia, Malaga, Deportivo La Coruña, Valencia, Sevilla, Real Betis, all of them, Espanyol. I debuted v Sabadell, and I had to mark Xavi Alonso's father, Pichi Alonso, who was he was the Spanish captain and Barcelona captain in the '82 World Cup. So just amazing. Sorry, just amazing people, amazing
experiences.
To me, Real Madrid legends. Guys that my dad spoke to me about, and then for me, in my time in Spain, I ran into a lot of great players. Antonio Maceda was the Spanish centre half at Gijon, and he went on to play for Real Madrid. Remember Hugo Sanchez and Bernd Schuster and all these guys were playing in Spain at the time. But for me, I suppose the greatest thing that I've always loved, Sash, is for some reason I've been fascinated with stadiums. So I go to Milan, I want to see the San Siro. I arrive in New York, I'm at Yankee Stadium. There's something iconic about it. Babe Ruth, Hank Aaron, there's something iconic about, say, the Bernabeu, the Camp Nou, Valencia Stadium, Wembley, River Plate. And you know what? I wasn't the greatest Socceroo. I wasn't the worst. I did my best on what is one leg, and I lived and achieved things that a lot of people dream about. And all these big stadiums that I tell you about, I played in them, and then, I'm in a room at the Bernabeu with Beckham. There's Beckham, Victoria Beckham, myself, Tony Stevens, the head agent for SFX, Florentino Perez, and the Real Madrid solicitor. A select group of people, 6 people. And Beckham signs his contract for Real Madrid. We're looking over. He's signing his contract, and I'm lost. I'm lost looking at the ground below where I played 17 years before, making me the first Australian to ever do that. And it's, when you get a little older, I'm very proud of it, mate. It took a lot of guts, resilience, courage, and just will. So many days I wanted to come home, when I was, 18, 19, when you first get there and you can't play in the first team, you're put in a room, you haven't got any friends, it's a Spanish TV that's fuzzy, your escape is training for an hour or two, you go back to this room, it's no bigger than a prison cell, and, you kind of, you miss home, and you think, man, like this dream of playing for in Spain and England, it's not all it's cracked out to be. It's I thought it was all happy days.
Yes, it's not the days of internet and Facebook and WhatsApp and Messenger and
there was none of that.
Instagram and you got it. I
would send letters to my mum. It's like a month to get there, a month to get back, and then it. And I think our childhoods, growing up as we did in Australia and with everything that came with it, kind of made us a bit more able to withstand any negativity that came once we got over there. But
you're nearing military service age, and you need to hightail it out of Spain, and you get letters and whatnot from the because of your Spanish heritage, and you make your way to England.
Escape, yeah.
So obviously the doing military service would have been okay if you would have had the entitlements of being a Spanish citizen, but you were sort of the foreigner, or had to deal with the foreigner, and being a defender, it's always hard. You want to sign the number 9 or the number 10 or a winger, somebody that's going to score you goals, not necessarily somebody who's going to hold a back line together. So that move would have been a little bit sort of, was it, how quickly did you need to make your mind up to sort of hightail it out of Spain?
Well, Dad and I went to see a military general down near Seville, and Dad had been in the military, obviously, and I would have done military service, and it didn't mean that I may not play for Australia one day either. There was none of that. But I would have done military service, because those 2 years in Spain were just the best years almost of my life. At 19, you're playing regular, first 11, 72 matches in all the big stadiums against the big. Who can do that now? It's not many. I don't know any. It's not an easy process. And and for me to do it I was a foreigner. So in the top 40 teams, to be in the top 40 foreigners that would go to Spain, you got to be kind of considered a decent player.
Yes.
And but it was the laws of FIFA overruled the Spanish FA, and they overruled my wishes to do military service and then play as a Spaniard. So it came down to you can play, you have to do military service as a Spaniard. I had a Spanish passport and ID, but you got to be an Aussie for football. And I said to Dad, I don't not love Spain. I love Australia too. But I'm either Spanish for everything or for nothing. You want me to go to war for you? You want me to go to war for you, and I can't play for Spain? It just doesn't even make sense. So at that point, I'm out of here. So Dad gets me to Barajas and caught an Iberia flight. It was pretty tense at the airport. Luckily for me, they didn't ask too many questions. And in those days, it was kind of look at passports and stamps and all that sort of stuff. It wasn't as high tech, as it is now. And now they probably would have put my name in, Spanish passport, and realised that, I've got to incorporate myself into the Spanish military in 7 days.
Yeah.
So anyway, land in London, military police turn up at my nan's 2 weeks later. She tells them to go, where. And they said, if we get him, he's going to be in military prison for 2 years. And she said, you won't get him. So, I land in London, and I'm picked up by a friend, Peter Morgan, who was studying at Nottingham University. He was studying politics at Nottingham Uni, and we had played together at Canberra City here in Canberra, and he was an English Pommy kid that was a few years older than me, and really it was English people that, friends that I had in Canberra, and Peter Desmond and Peter Morgan, that, there wasn't that much on TV. You saw the occasional Leeds and Liverpool, ABC, FA Cup, but they instilled this love of England to me, and it was like, wow, I've got to play there at some point. Yeah. So that went to Nottingham, and I just finished in Spain. I played first 11 against all the big teams, so I was confident in my own ability. And my mate Peter said, "What are you going to do?" And, I said, "I'm going to go and ride my bike into the city ground." He said, "The European champions in Forest." I said, "I'm going to ride my bike in there and ask Brian Clough for a trial." And he goes, "Are you nuts?" I go, "Kind of," and, but so is he. So maybe we'll two like minds will come together. So that's what I did.
Davo was there. Davo was there just a little bit before you.
Yes.
So did that help at all? The fact that
because Cluffy liked him. I'm not sure of all the reasons. I think for Davo leaving, I think he was getting some epileptic fits or something. There was something. Some medical issues, and I'm not sure why. But look, Davo is the first Australian to ever be signed by Brian Clough, arguably the greatest manager in British football history. What an honour that is. He was there for a while. They toured Australia, and Ron Fenton, their scout, thought Davo was amazing, and he was amazing. And whether it helped or not, he was, weird's not the right word.
Eccentric. He was
eccentric.
Yeah.
Just, and I walked in and Archie Gemmell got me the passage into his office. I walk in and I said, "Look, I've been playing in Spain. I'd avoid military service, and then, I can give you references." And he says, "You wouldn't be in here, son, if you hadn't played where you're telling me you'd played." And so he you can catch a bluffer out quick smart, you can, and I wouldn't have been in there if I hadn't played 72 games in Spain. And I said, "I played for Pachin, ex-Real Madrid," and he goes, "That'll do me." He goes, "That'll do me." And he rang Archie Gemmell up on his red phone and said, "Get him a kit and put him in between Neil Webb and Des Walker, who were England internationals at the time." Yeah. Yes. And then he said, "All right, lad, we've got that out of the way. Do you like cricket?" And the next half hour, he and I were late, like that first training session, because he just wanted to talk cricket. He asked me if I knew Viv Richards, Gordon Greenwich, Desmond Haynes, Joel Garner. He went through the Windies team, the Australian team, and us Aussies, we knew cricket then, didn't we? So, and I said, "You know what, boss?" As I was riding over the River Trent Bridge, and I looked at Trent Bridge on the left. He goes, "It's not about oval, is it, son?" I said, "No." I said, I was imagining myself in the middle of that cricket pitch with a baggy green on and hitting that red ball to every part of the fence. And he, from that moment on, he liked me. He liked me a lot, but he was honest with me as well. And he said, "I've got Des Walker and Neil Webb in your positions. But based on the fact that you played for Pachin, you're going to stay here for a few months. And if they don't get injured, they're England international. They're my boys at the moment. And but I will help you get a club."
Mm-hmm.
And he kept his word. And he made a phone call and he got me to Ipswich Town, and they signed me, based, on the back of Brian Clough's recommendation, which is high praise. And he said he did something. He mentioned something about Davo. He said you Australians travel a lot just to kick a ball around. He said that's pretty daft. And then he said He was an Aussie. He was an Aussie, but a different Aussie to you. I go, what do you mean, boss? He goes, well, he was a Chinaman. You know, it's like, and it's just he was not. There was no political correctness or. Dave's actually Japanese background, isn't he?
Half Japanese. Yes.
Yeah. But I wasn't going to correct Cluffy on any point. It was like just whatever you want him to be, boss. And that's how it went. You know, went into the dressing room and was made very welcome and at a Nottingham Forest team that. Look, it was an amazing time because it was kind of the time where I also discovered, and I'd like to delve into football management, in the next few years. I really would like to do that. Cluffy taught me a lot of things in terms of, he said managing top elite football clubs has got nothing to do with football. Nothing to do with football.
Yeah.
It's a psychological thing.
Yeah, managing the egos. How do you keep a list happy?
And how do you push their buttons?
Yeah.
Mourinho once went into the Chelsea dressing room when he first got there, and he planned it because I think the day before, it was on a BBC documentary, he planned it the day before where he'd gone in and he'd seen all these players, Aston Martins, Ferraris, Lamborghinis, and, they're all on 200, 300, 400 grand a week, cars they want. You want for nothing. There's nothing you can't have. So he got his masseur to go home and get the medals, the European Champions medals that they'd won the year before a Porto. Said tomorrow in front of all the squad, he told his masseur, I'm going to ask them all who's won a European Champions League. He said, after I do that, you and I are going to put our hands up because I know none of them have. So he said it, and him and the little masseur went like this. And he had, people like Lampard and Drogba and that kind of went, wow.
Yeah.
That's another level of mind game.
Yes.
It's you can have all the money you want. You can't buy the Champions League. You can't buy a Socceroo cap. The chairman of Reading Football Club, we were running out once in a FA Cup match against Manchester United. So I'm lined up. Schmeichel, Keane, Giggs, Scholes, Cantona, the lot. Okay? And, the chairman of Reading Football Club is in the tunnel with me and he goes, I would give you my $1 billion to be you today. And it's amazing, these stories. And then you kind of realise, wow, you're doing something it's
it's at a different level. At a different level.
My dad said, do things that money can't buy. And then you'll die happy. You can't take everything with you, but if you can, I've played at the Bernal, the River Plate, here, there, Socceroos, and it's Wembley. I'm a dog catcher 1 minute, Ranger dog catcher in playing for Sydney Olympic. 9 months later, I'm running out at Wembley at 28.
Yes. That's fantastic. Yeah. So you finish with Ipswich Town, you come back to Olympic, and was it in that Olympic that first year at Olympic that you got your first Socceroo cap?
Yeah,
from memory, it's in around that time, isn't it?
Yeah, I was at Ipswich Town. I got offered a new 3-year deal, and I was planning on being in England for 10 years. But I'd gone into England on a visa that I shouldn't have. It was meant for part-time work. I didn't have A caps at the time, so I couldn't get a visa. So I kind of conned the FA in a way through letting them think that I was going in as a casual Commonwealth worker, working in pubs and that. And then they found out on my return and I was deported.
Okay.
I think along with Bosnich, he and I are the only ones, Socceroos, to ever be deported from Mother England. And I came back and signed for Sydney Olympic. I had South Melbourne, my hometown Canberra, and Sydney Olympic were keen. And, Sydney was the choice because it was closer to Canberra. Tomo was coaching at the time and he was going to be the national coach. He said, come with me and I'll give you a cap. I'll make sure that you get a cap, but you got to earn it. So that's the way I went. I played for Sydney Olympic and very, very tough in a way after you've played at levels that I'd played the previous 3 years.
Yeah.
And you then go back into part-time football. And, I struggled with it for a little while. You had to go and get another job. You had to...
And you're playing that the difference of 30-40% less in standard, and it's the governance and the professionalism. I get it. It's everything's that sort of, it's a little bit deflating.
I found it tough, and then you find it tough, and your mind then tries to adapt it and deviate onto other things. So I end up at acting school in Hollywood, and David Hasselhoff and MacGyver sitting next to me, and the mad things you do. I end up as a ranger at Wallara Council, working as a dog catcher as well, and part of the job, and just, but during that, in a time where my knee was really finished, and where I wasn't playing as good a football as I had in Spain, I got a Socceroo cap. It's how this game works, and the weird and wonderful ways that it works in. Is insanity. I wasn't playing. I was a far better player in Spain than I was with with a rapidly decaying knee. And we train on cricket pitches, in between summer and winter, and half the training would be Bondi to Clovelly, runs along the hills there in the eastern suburbs, and not. Everything wasn't, Sydney and NP and NSL. Although when we played and you went to training, you took it serious. Everything else surrounding the whole game just kind of wasn't conducive to being the best player that you could be.
You're also very fit. I think I remember you once competing in a really obscure race against everybody else from different leagues. There was a guy from AFL, a guy from rugby union. Did I remember correctly? And you were representing soccer once?
Yeah, you do. We I tell you, it was the Kellogg's. It was the Kellogg's Mile, and it was done as a cross. It's Kellogg's obviously doing some marketing too. So Tom Samani selected. They got in touch with Tom Samani and said, "I need your 4 best athletes, your 4 best runners at Sydney Olympic." So Sydney Olympic went in, and we represented the Socceroos, soccer, football. There was the rugby league, rugby union, and AFL. And I ran the last 400, but just before me, a kid called Steve Refenes, that he ended up going and playing for, I think it was Olympiacos or a team in Greece, and he was the left winger and Ollie Roo for Olympic, and that kid was his running ability was absolutely amazing. And he got a 50-meter lead for me going to the last 400. And I was a good 200, 400-meter runner, and we took out the cross codes.
Yes.
Kellogg's Mile down the middle of George Street.
Yes. That just came to me now. A little bit of an obscure piece of history. So you it's in your early years at Olympic that you win an NSL title, and winning the title at any level, right, is a special thing. Tell me about some of the characters in the Olympic dressing room. Obviously, you would have been one of the characters in the dressing room, but who are some of the other boys that you had a good time with?
Oh, look, that team, I couldn't go through 2 goalkeepers that were magnificent servants, Gary Meyer and Clint Gosling. Clint also played for New Zealand. Gary was a little older, had been around Olympic longer than any of us, to be honest with you. But both, two great guys, 2 great goalkeepers. Goalkeepers kind of weird in a way, in their own kind of way, and then they would be together and they'd integrate. But two really good souls, two good men that did their business, did their job. Never involved in cliques or politics or anything within the squad. We never really had that. We were led by Eddie Thompson, who had a wonderful career, and Mick Hickman was his assistant, played for Blackburn. Then he eventually took over, and he took no shit. You know, he was a hard man. You know, with those two, the messages were clear. Training, games, the whole lot. It was.
And was Steve Darby the goalkeeper coach there at the time?
He was around at one point.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm not sure if he was there. He was there when Brett Emerton was there. I wasn't there.
Okay. All right.
So then, we had Robbie Hooker, Socceroo, Tony Spiridakos at the back, myself, left back. Actually, Hooker played left back. He was a right back, but he played equally adept right and left. Good player, good solid player. You knew with Robbie and Dave Barrett on the other side, two fantastic fullbacks, and you kind of knew what you were getting every week. You know, there wasn't here or here. It was like
7 out of 10 every week. 7 or 8 out.
8 out of 10 every week with those two. We had a guy in midfield called Gary Phillips, who then went on to. Gary's a great kid. Could have surfed for Australia. Top 10 in the world at one stage. I went a couple of times to Hawaii with him, and man, did that guy surf! It was a pleasure. He was one of my best mates. We'd go to the gym together, do extras together. You know what? There's another mystery in life, how he wasn't capped for the Socceroos at some point. He was like Conte, you know, just all terrain, kilometre, could pass a ball. A bit of a midfield general, but maybe considered a little small at the time, but so is Conte. We had characters like Robbie Ironside with the dreadlocks, New Zealand, Kiwi international. He was kind of like a bigger version of Cahill, get a wide, get in the box, and he'd get on the end of anything. And just run after run. Alistair Edwards, who's now in Johor, director of football at Johor, he and Abbas were stars up front. Really, really top-class players for this league. Went on to Asia and were very top-class there. Alistair played in England a bit. Abbas I think Asia was his. He was a Zidane in Asia. That was his kind of piece. Rafine's on the left was a winger that then went to he went off Greece. to Greece, and George Haniotis was one of the centre halves with Spiridakos and me, and he recently passed away, and very tragic. I spoke to him last year, and he's in my book because we were enemies for like a year or two of training, and he's a young lion, a warrior. So was I, and he wanted my spot, and there's a training session in where it could have been either me with an ACL or he ended up with a broken jaw. And we didn't see him for 8 weeks, and that's how it was. And we came back, a year, 3-4 months later, and first thing happened, ball went for a ball, and then ended up, in a fight. And Mick Hickman grabbed us both and said, "If you two continue that, you'll deal with me." And so we decided the best option was not to deal with Mick Hickman. And so really, George's, and then after that, George and I became great pals, and didn't see him for many, many, many years. And he phoned me, he called me last year, and he wasn't great. And I tried to phone him last year a few times and couldn't get through. And I've recently in my book I had to go at the PFA as well because and the club Sydney Olympic. I haven't heard from Sydney Olympic for 30 years. There's 7-8 players who played in that grand final team. We haven't heard from Sydney Olympic for 27, 28, 30 years. Where are you? Where were you? You put something up for George the other day. Oh, rest in peace, George. This, that, man. You put up a Sydney Olympic thing with all your sponsors on it. Where were you the last 27, 28 years? 15 years for George.
Yeah, it's something that it's important to discuss and be open about. Mental health obviously is important. As middle-aged men, we don't talk about it, because We
I
want
said
to
it to
be
the
powerful.
PFA.
Yeah.
I said it to the PFA the same.
So we need to reach out to each other to see if we're okay. And the other thing too is a lot of these blogs, they just want to be in touch and see how they can help, right? So
from my point of view, that's why I was upset, with the George thing, because the PFA now have touched base with me a little bit, but I played for this nation, and I had 10 years of darkness. And hi, Andy, how you doing?
Yeah, are you okay?
Would have been, would have meant the world to me when you're in darkness. It's all right to say after people disappear and they're not here anymore. Oh yeah, this, that, this, whatever. Man, just a phone call. I was talking to some PFA people the other day. Oh, we're reaching out to the old senior pros, this and that. A lot of them aren't on social media. A lot of them aren't on Instagram, Facebook, emails. Well, guess what? Give me a car and a wage with the PFA, and I'll drive to every cap number. 1, 4, 10, 15, 20, 39, Perth, Brisbane, drive to their house, knock on their door and say, are you okay? Can I come in? Let's have a cup of tea, a coffee. Tell me about playing against East Germany in the World Cup. Tell me about that game away to South Korea or North Korea, and leave 6 hours later and you've made a man's life.
Yeah, that's it. Talk to us about you represented Australia over 20 times. What does it feel like? Because growing up as a young boy, you probably dreamed to represent the country in rugby union, but you're now representing in the world game, round ball. What does it feel like standing with your mates, the 11 of you, and then listening to that national anthem?
It's a beautiful thing. It's you grow up in a country. A lot of us that have played for the Socceroos come from ethnic backgrounds. But you're born here. I know. I speak for myself. I was born in Australia. I love Australia. I played in Spain too. The national anthem, the green and gold. It didn't matter whether it was a friendly match or an important match. It's a very special occasion, and you need to respect. What it all means. For me, everybody there standing together, listening to your anthem, and playing for a nation, for family in the stands, for kids watching on TV. You're representing this nation. It's a beautiful thing. So, you sometimes wish I'd played more.
Yep.
But I didn't. So you know what? Yep. That's it. You didn't. Some played more, some played less. I talked to Alex Tobin about it sometimes. He got 100 caps, but never played. I was more the Craig Johnston kind of. I wanted to play in England. I wanted to play at Wembley, at Old Trafford, against Leeds United, Ellen Road. So I did that. Someone like Alex, with all respect, multitude of caps, over 100, I believe. Yes, something like that.
And over 400 games for Adelaide City.
And so he lived his dream. I lived mine. We all got out of this game and get out of this game what our dream was.
It's amazing. Mick Hickman's at Olympic, and suddenly he's back in England, and he gives you a hoy to go back. And like you said, your knees done, but you managed to play a number of seasons for Reading, and you captained Reading. That would have been an honour in itself. So what were the Reading fans like?
Oh, look, I went back. I was on one leg when I went back. If they do a medical, like an MRI scan, no chance.
Okay.
No chance. I'd the top surgeon in Sydney, Merv Cross, Pinchevsky and Serenity. They worked in a clinic in North Sydney, did all the rugby league players. they said to me, "What are you doing? What are you even? We told you to retire 10 years ago." And they did. I said, "I need one last clean out." And he goes, "Andy, there's nothing to clean. There's no car. Yeah, there's just, it was like bone calcifying that they shaved." And he just said, "Good luck." He actually said, "What you do on a football pitch, how you play with that, is medically, scientifically not normal. We don't understand it, because normally you would be suffering more pain." And so, I went over, but I'd been denied. I'd been denied playing many years, by bureaucratic red tape. The deportation, the visas, the not being a Socceroo yet, the Spanish military service. So I couldn't die. I couldn't go to my death not having played at Wembley, not having played against Man United, Man City, Leeds United at Elland Road, QPR at Loftus Road, against West Ham, against Chelsea. That's what I dreamt about. Yeah, for me, the biggest accolade I've ever received in football, far greater than, I don't know. For me, it's we played Chelsea, and after the match, Gianfranco Zola and Marcel Desailly came up to me and said, "You should have been with us today."
Oh, wow. Zola's a legend. I mean, and legends, both of them.
So those words resonated pretty.
They're big comments. They're big comments.
So just going back to England and having them say that and play against them was a beautiful day. So, and I ended up playing in a playoff final at Wembley Stadium. You grow up in Canberra and you dream of, you're in the middle of winter and you watch Craig Johnson score in an FA Cup. FA Cups prior to that is once a year there was football, the FA Cup, and SBS was starting to show a little bit of Serie A, remember? But there was not much more. Match of the day on Mondays, and you'd look at this place called Wembley with Twin Towers, and man, it was like, I'm 9, 10, 11, 12, and I'm seeing this place, and it's like going to the moon.
Yeah.
And you go into your room and you got a Leeds United poster up, and man, imagine playing there one day, and then suddenly you go back to England, and 9 months later you're running out at Wembley.
Yeah, fantastic.
It's and you, I played a part in. We lost that day, and I kind of said to myself, and it's never nice losing, but I said to myself, where I'm at and where I thought I might have been, and then, you know what, you got to somehow love this day, whatever happens. You got to love this day. You got to love playing on grass that's like the greens at Augusta. You got to love, looking up in the stands and half the stadium's Reading and half's Bolton, and they're singing their heads off like a Metallica concert for 90 minutes for extra time. You how can you not love this?
Yeah.
And that's what I did. And I managed our first goal. I made a break, and from wing back, I crossed it to Lee Hogan, and it's rated in one of the top 100 goals ever scored at Wembley. So
fantastic.
There you go.
Fantastic. So in what year did you get the armband there?
It was in I think it was the second season. The first or the second. The first one we went, and you know what? I think it was the first, because Mark McGee and Mick Hickman took me back there, and Mark McGee was the manager. But they towards the end of the season, they got offered to join Leicester City. They then went off to Wolves as well. So they went off to Leicester City, and two of our players, Jimmy Quinn and Mick Gooding, were the senior boys, and Jimmy was a Northern Ireland international, and they became player managers. And they were both captains for a few matches, and then they decided that the captains would be A.D. Williams, that played for Wales, Phil Parkinson, a 10-year veteran of Reading, and myself. And I'm not sure what game it was, but I know I had it at Man City. I know I had it at a few places, and to wear it once, to wear it 5 times, to wear it 20 times. Captain,
you're part of the leadership group. That's it. You're a leader.
The other thing is, I became the first Australian to ever captain a side in English football in any league.
Wow.
I think Joe Marston was the first Aussie to play in an FA Cup or in England, I think, but he never captained Preston North End. Then others came and went, but Lucas Neal, Cahill, Viduka, Kuehl, all these. I was the first one to captain an English football club. So
that's great.
It's not like getting 80 caps or 100 caps like some of them, but depends what you value and how you value it.
You fantastic career, considering if anyone's had severe injuries, like I know what it's like. I did my first knee at 17, so I know what it's like to play on a bung knee. It's really tough. You played at the highest possible level on that bung knee, so congratulations.
Thank you.
You become a player manager. I encourage everybody to go out and read the book and get us to understand. You lived a very full life, Andy Bernal. You go on to convince your company so they ask you to bring which Aussie talent, and you get them to sign Timmy Cahill. Who, you must have a bit of an eye to be able to relate to people, and then put your chips on the right number on the wheel. Tim went on to have a fantastic career, and you find yourself being very close to David Beckham, and when he signs at Real Madrid, and that's a big part of the book.
Yeah.
Talk to me about what's it like. Obviously David and Victoria Beckham at the time, they were the glamour couple. You think about the sort of at that time, they're the probably the biggest sort of celebrity couple in the world. But you think about that Real Madrid side. And if you think about, you had R9, you had Figo, you had Zidane, you had Roberto Carlos, David Beckham. It's just insane. I've got to say that maybe that's the greatest in any era. That's maybe the greatest Real Madrid side. People can argue about eras. That's got to be up there.
It's the greatest five-a-sides I've ever seen. But I'll just quickly how I got there with Beckham was I went into Mayfair. Someone had organised for a quick interview with David Beckham's long-time agent, who managed Owen and Lineker and all these guys, and Gerrard. And I walked into the Mayfair office, and first 3 names that hit me were Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, David Beckham. That's who the company managed.
Yeah.
And 24 hours later, about 2 hours later, they said, we're going to take you on a trial basis, but you need to recruit a kid for us. That's kind of the test. And you got 3 months to bring Tim Cahill into the office. And I took Timmy in 24 hours later. So
what did you do? Just call him up? Just Aussie spirit, just call him up?
I knew Timmy. I knew his dad. I knew he was represented by lawyers in the East End of London who would send death threats to some of the agents in our office. I said to Beckham's agent, I'll get Timmy. If your office in Mayfair gets shot up, it's on you. But I'll get Timmy. And Timmy was fantastic. He knew that the company that represented Jordan and Bryant and Beckham was where he had to be.
Yeah.
But he also knew that he had an obligation to people that had helped him and been loyal to him. That tells you a lot about who Timmy is, that they were looked after. So nothing came of anything. Everybody was looked after.
Yeah.
And from that that's how I got in there. And I played against the Man United teams. Beckham was in and out of the office. We had mutual friends. I'd played in Spain. The year before, I'd been at Real Madrid talking to Valdano and Butragueño, basically selling them Beckham.
Yep.
And that's how it worked. So I was a FIFA agent for SFX. My first client was Tim, and Carl Valeri. There's many others.
Yeah.
But with Beckham, my role was right-hand man. It was from security to operations. From being with him 24/7. Really, it's from hotel to training ground to everything. The first 3 months were really important. He couldn't speak Spanish or Portuguese. Brazilians couldn't speak any English. Raul, Casillas, Zidane, none of these guys. So I was with him all the time. To get to Beckham in Madrid, those first 3 months, you couldn't get to him without getting past me. And to get past me, you would have to get past 2 SAS commandos and 2 of Fidel Castro's Secret Service intelligence officers.
Serious stuff. Yeah.
So that was all. That all came under unknowingly to me. I was kind of there to help him with training, interpreting. But Tony Stevens went off. Then there was a war between the Spice Girls management to grab him and SFX, and so everyone disappeared and left Andy in charge of a £300 million operation, and paparazzi chasing us, and the madness that ensued. But back to the characters that the footballers you were talking about. Man, you land in Madrid and the next day you're at Ronaldo's house. It's like Copacabana. It's Copacabana.
Yeah, I still think probably the most explosive striker to ever play, and very much a greatest. I only have 3 signed. I've got a number of jerseys, but 3 signed jerseys: Maradona, Pele, and R9. He was what he did in Italy and in Spain. Fantastic. What was he like as a character?
Just the most warm, embracing, beautiful human that, you'd go to Ronnie's house, and as soon as you got out of the car, it was a big hug. It wasn't like, a cold handshake or a big hug. This is your house.
Okay.
This is your house. You do whatever you want. Not long after, we became friends, and I got a vet for his dog that had jumped, his guard dog that had jumped off the 2nd floor and broke its leg. I helped him out. I helped him out.
Funny story.
I helped him out. His attack dog had jumped off the 2nd floor of his house, believing attacking something, and had broken its 2 legs. And he was a training. He was a training, and I found a vet out of hours, and he never forgot that. Okay. It was almost like, wow, I went to an even greater level now. But he, very giving, a very giving soul, always 6, 7 friends around his house that I would say, who are these guys, Ronnie? And, he'd say, they're my friends. They get food for me when I had none. When I was starving, when I in the favelas, he
really came from nothing. Yeah.
And he said, now that I have a lot, they want for nothing forever. He had his family there. He had his mates. He had a mate called Locatelli who asked him, I played in Brazil, I think, with him, and Locatelli asked Ronaldo one day if he could borrow the Ferrari. Ronnie said, yeah, just threw him the keys. Anyway, 5 hours later, Swiss police called Ronnie, the registered, owner of the vehicle. Switzerland. Ronaldo Nazario, is your vehicle? Yes, we have your friend here, Locatelli. 290 kilometres in a 40k school zone, like, in Switzerland from Madrid. And Ronaldo says, put Locatelli on. So the cops put Locatelli on. And Ronnie goes, what are you doing? What's you making ashes? And Locatelli goes, I came to see, I had a date. and Ronaldo goes, what do you mean a date? He goes, yeah, a girl in Bern, Switzerland. And I went 5 hours from Madrid to Switzerland. So he's gone up through the Pyrenees, the tunnels, into Italy, tunnels into Switzerland, 5 hours in a Ferrari.
Yes.
And Ronaldo loved the story so much, he gave him the car.
Wow. Said, so that typified, okay.
Yeah, he said, look.
Very generous story, man. Very
story,
generous man.
I can never beat. There you go.
Yeah.
And he was just, I'd be at his house. David would go back to England with Victoria or on camp, and Ronnie would say, come to my place, and swimming pool, golf course. Tiger Woods had given him, golf clubs. So Andy, can you play golf with me, and putting, and just you know what? Like he wasn't even a footballer. Like he was just a great guy.
One of the boys. Yeah, one of the boys.
Just like all these people are very famous, but away from the football, they're just
normal people. Yeah.
Within our bubble, inside that bubble, outside that bubble, it's like the whole world was looking in. Yeah. But within that bubble, they're just like we are normally. Like just do the normal things and eat the normal food but Ronaldo is a beautiful man. Roberto Carlos, a beautiful man. Zidane, beautiful man. 6'2", 6'3".
Yeah. How elegant.
Brezhnikov, Nureyev, with the ball. Just
yes.
For me, I don't mention this in the book, but I'll tell you live here. We were at lunch one day with all the boys, all the Galacticos, and I was thinking to myself, out of all this lot, who do they think is the greatest? And to a T said, who do you boys, who's the Galactico? Who's the number one? And they all pointed to Zidane. They all went Zizou.
Yeah, quality.
That guy at training was just like, but you know what? There was Raul, there was Casillas, there was just a multitude. Figo
was there, yeah.
Yeah, like, and it's like Figo had come up to me. Figo came up one afternoon and they'd finished a game at the Bernabeu, and this is how mad they were. He goes, the Sultan of Brunei's nephew is here. He'd like to meet David. He's the second richest human on the planet. Can you guys just stuff like that? It just and in a weird way, it becomes the norm.
Yes,
it becomes like the Sultan of Brunei. It's the norm. I'm waiting at the private airport.
Yes.
I get a pass from Real Madrid that allows me to go in any vehicle onto the military base, the Air Force base, where Air Force jets land and private jets land. And I've got a pass. And I can go onto that base at 2 a.m. and I'm picking up a plane load of Victoria's Secret models. Like,
yeah, that's next level.
The insanity of it. It's if you're not happy with these, we'll get some more models. Yeah, it's just
that's crazy. The who would have thought going from dog catcher, right, kicking the ball over Long Bay or jail, training pitch at Olympic, right, you're chasing dogs in Sydney, to now you're on military bases in Madrid.
It's pretty mad, and it was it's everything. The greatest thing that I've been able to do, Sash, is tell my truth.
Yep.
Tell the truth in the book. It's given me a lot of peace and a lot of freedom, and many people have said, what will they think? What will they think? What will they think? Nobody's thinking anything because it's the truth. And nobody's thinking anything or putting injunctions on anything because the truth is the truth. And
yeah.
when I've called out police, I've called out a lot of people, and I don't hear anything. People are silent. Newspapers that talk rubbish don't exist anymore. So, for me, there's a great piece about the book now. And the greatest endorsement from David, for example, in Victoria, is the fact that I'm selling my book and I'm relating stories about them. And they know that I was very protective of their children.
Of their family. Yeah,
I was very, very protective of both of them with my life. And I coordinated commando units and Cuban intelligence units to do exactly what we had to do, protect, in an era, in a special time in Madrid where you've seen nothing like the paparazzi of that era. It was the chatter on the commando radios would be, let's go for kill shots on Beckham.
Yeah, it's sad.
Trying to create chaos so that you crash.
Yeah.
And I had a crash at one point, and very close to a Princess Diana type thing with paparazzi, and then it still impacts me a little bit now, but I wouldn't swap it for the world. But I'm when I talk about all these stories about Ronnie and Nazario and Figo, and I feel very proud that they allowed me into their circle.
Yeah.
On a football level, they believed, I was an international footballer. I was one of them. I was of trust. They didn't consider me an agent. Ronaldo used to say, "You're my friend. You're our friend, Roberto's friend." So
that's nice. And I'm sure writing the book would be very cathartic. I'm sure you've got other books in you because you've lived a full life. I want to know, Andy, because you were quite elite at that sort of that 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old. And I always finish off my podcast with this because I want you to speak to that 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old boy or girl who have got that. What advice do you have that, they're on the verge of making it, whatever level they're at, okay? So whether it's in the state league, NPL, or they're going to wanting to play overseas, what advice do you have for them?
Okay, I'm going to be really, really honest in the first instance. For me to achieve what I achieved, and especially with the injury as well, was a monumental task. And the game itself needs to become a part of your life. From the training to the playing to the recovery, your whole life, family, everything must revolve around the sport and the craft that you're trying to be excellent at, to then go and play at high levels. If that means missing birthday parties, funerals, this, that, whatever, everything comes after what your football program requires. Everything.
Okay, so sacrifice.
Sacrifice, yes. When you read the book, you'll realise that I went through a stage after my life where addiction impacted me. And I'm not proud of that, but I'm proud that I'm here, okay? And probably the will and the desire that allowed me to become a footballer was the will and desire that allowed me to beat an addiction. But when I played football, when I wanted to be a Socceroo and play in Europe, I'm very, very proud of the fact that I didn't drink and I didn't touch a drug. Because growing up in Canberra, everyone in high school smoked pot, this, that, something. So we're going to be honest about everything. To achieve everything, you've got to be on that level, okay, where you're doing. After football, I went a little mad. That's for a different topic. But wanting to be something special, dedication, discipline, no fear. You need to be really confident in yourself. But to be confident in yourself and feel empowered, you need to do extras. You need to understand, especially for football and for all top sports. A lot of people don't tell you to be a Socceroo, there's a lot of Socceroos, but not a lot of them play top level Europe. To go to even the greater levels, you got to be a fantastic athlete. because what I saw with Ronaldo Nazario and Zidane, Roberto Carlos, I saw athletes of just the greatest athletic ilk that you can ever imagine. We talked about Nazario, R9. Just, could have been super athletes, 100 metres, 200. Some of them, you look at Iniesta, Xavi. People don't realise their VO2 max is like Tour de France riders.
Mm-hmm.
To be able to tiki-taka for 90 minutes, you've got to have willpower. You've got to have a strength of character that allows you to go into foreign dressing rooms, to go into dressing rooms where they don't want you there. How do you have the fortitude and the courage to go in there and win them over? How are you going to do that? Are you going to do it like Sergio Ramos or Andy Bernal, or are you going to do it like Messi or Maradona or Ronaldo with unbelievable skill? How you do that, how you win people over, is kind of, that's part of the game. It's, people say about being brave. Well, I can tell you brave is putting your head in where studs are flying, tackling people, when the tackle isn't there, putting your life on the line in a tackle. But brave is also receiving the ball when you're 3-0 down in front of 70,000 people that are booing you. That's brave too. So there are many factors that too many, but I suppose almost you got to visualize it, you got to smell it. 15, 16, I was in Canberra, and I say to kids, I could smell Wembley. I could visualize myself. I would, don't just go and kick a ball against a wall. I'd go and kick a ball against a wall and turn out and then put in the top corner at the AOS at the boards and actually commentate to myself. Commentate that I just put it in the top corner at a top Spanish, football club or a great pass at Wembley, and I would visualise where I wanted to be. And
so that idea, that the power of manifestation.
Very important.
Fantastic words of wisdom. Andrew Bernal, fantastic to have you on today. You're such a character of our game, and you've lived such a full life, and we want to hear many stories and many more chapters.
Sash, and any time you want me on, thank you. I'm really blessed, humbled that you had me on, mate, and gave me a platform. And again, it is what it is. It was what it was. I hope my story can inspire many other young kids to achieve their dreams.
Hey guys, we've come to the end of this episode. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you taking the time to listen to our wonderful guest. If you like this type of content and would like to see more, how about you hit the like and subscribe button? And have a fantastic day.